The text message was simple: leave now. Don't say anything. I was sitting at dinner with my parents when I got it. 24 hours later, police were at their door, and my entire family was facing felony charges. But here's what they never saw coming. I wasn't the victim they thought I was. If you've ever wondered what true betrayal looks like, smash that subscribe button right now. Hit the like button, because this story will show you that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones plotting against you. Trust me, you won't see this ending coming. The dinner invitation came after 3 weeks of complete silence. 3 weeks where my phone stayed eerily quiet, where family group chats went dead, where even my mother's usual guilt trip texts stopped arriving. When the message finally came through, it was deceptively simple. Sunday dinner. Just family. Hope you'll join us. I should have known something was wrong. My family doesn't do reconciliation. They do manipulation. Let me take you back to understand how we got here. Growing up as the older sibling meant one thing in my household. I was the bank. Every allowance I saved, every birthday dollar I tucked away, every part-time job paycheck, it all became community property the moment my younger sister, Emma, ran out of her own money. The pattern started early. We each got a $5 weekly allowance. I'd save mine in a little ceramic pig on my dresser. Emma would blow through hers on candy and sparkly erasers by Wednesday. Come Friday, when her friends were going to the movies, guess who got the lecture about sharing and being a good sister? Don't be selfish, Jessica, my mother would say, her voice dripping with disappointed authority. Family helps family. In high school, I worked weekends at a local bookstore. Minimum wage, but it was mine. Or so I thought. Emma wanted designer jeans, concert tickets, the latest phone. She never asked me directly, she was too smart for that. Instead, she'd work with our parents, painting herself as the struggling younger sister while I was the one with all that job money. The requests always came filtered through them. Emma really needs help with her car payment. She's stressed about not having money for college. You know how hard it is for her to find work. When I graduated college and landed my first real job as a software developer, the tasks got bigger. Much bigger. College tuition assistance, rent help, emergency car repairs that always seemed to happen right when I got a raise. Each time, they presented it as temporary, as family duty, as what good sisters do. But Emma never worked. Never budgeted. Never once said thank you. The breaking point came 2 years ago. I'd just gotten promoted to senior developer, a legitimate career milestone that I'd worked 70-hour weeks to achieve. When I called to share the news, my mother's first words weren't congratulations. They were, "That's wonderful. So what's your salary now?" 3 days later came the request, $12,000 for Emma's study abroad program. Not a loan. A gift. Because she deserves this opportunity, and you can afford it now. That's when I said no. For the first time in my adult life, I looked at my family and said one simple word, no. The silence that followed was deafening. Then came the guilt trips, the emotional manipulation, the accusations of selfishness. When those didn't work, they tried a different approach, cutting me off completely. 3 weeks of silence. 3 weeks where I discovered what peace felt like without constant financial demands. 3 weeks where I almost forgot what it was like to check my bank account without anxiety. Then came that dinner invitation. I convinced myself they'd accepted my boundaries. Maybe they'd realized I wasn't their personal ATM anymore. Maybe we could have a normal family relationship built on something other than money. I was so incredibly wrong. The house looked exactly the same when I arrived that Sunday evening. Same crooked mailbox, same faded welcome mat, same artificial wreath that had been hanging on the door since last Christmas. Everything normal, everything familiar, everything designed to make me drop my guard. My mother greeted me at the door with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Jessica, come in, come in. We're just about to eat." The dining room was set perfectly, too perfectly. My usual spot at the table had been prepared with military precision. Fresh flowers in the center, cloth napkins instead of paper, and there, waiting at my place setting, was a tall glass of apple cider. The good stuff, the kind they only brought out for special occasions. "Still your favorite, right?" my mother asked, watching me a little too intently. I nodded, though I hadn't touched apple cider in months. Something about the way she asked made my skin crawl, but I couldn't put my finger on why. Emma was already seated, scrolling through her phone with that practiced indifference she'd perfected in high school. She looked up just long enough to acknowledge my presence before returning to her screen. My father emerged from the kitchen carrying a serving dish, moving with the careful precision of someone trying too hard to appear casual. We sat down to what appeared to be a perfectly normal family dinner. roast beef, mashed potatoes, green beans that my father had clearly overcooked but we all pretended to enjoy. The conversation flowed like it always had, surface-level pleasantries punctuated by awkward silences. How's work? Fine. Still in that same apartment? Yes. Traffic's been terrible lately, hasn't it? I played my part perfectly. The dutiful daughter, home for dinner, pretending that 3 weeks of silence had never happened. I smiled at the right moments, laughed at my father's tired jokes, even complimented my mother's cooking. But something felt off. They were all trying too hard, performing their roles with just a little too much enthusiasm. My mother kept glancing at my untouched glass of cider. Emma, who usually ignored family dinners completely, seemed unusually engaged. My father kept checking his watch, as if we were on some kind of schedule. Halfway through the meal, my phone buzzed against my leg. I almost ignored it. Family dinner rules had always been strict about phones at the table. But something made me check. The message was from a number I didn't recognize. Get up and leave now. Don't say anything to your parents. I stared at the screen, reading the words again. The conversation continued around me, my family chatting about neighborhood gossip and weather patterns, completely oblivious to the bomb that had just gone off in my lap. My first instinct was to dismiss it. Spam message, wrong number, somebody's idea of a prank. But something in my gut told me to take it seriously. Something about the precise wording, the urgency without explanation, the specific instruction not to say anything to my parents. I'll be right back, I said, pushing back from the table. I just need to use the restroom. No one questioned it. No one even looked up. That should have been my first red flag. In a family of control freaks, the lack of curiosity was suspicious. I climbed the stairs to the upstairs bathroom, the one with the door that actually locked properly. My hands were shaking as I dialed the number. It rang once before a familiar voice answered. You're still there. Ryan. It was Emma's ex-boyfriend, a guy I'd only met a handful of times but had always seemed decent enough. What the hell is going on? His voice was low, urgent, like he was speaking from somewhere he shouldn't be. You need to leave. Right now. Just get up, walk out, don't drink anything else. Don't drink anything else? I looked down at my untouched glass of cider, still sitting at my place setting. Ryan, what are you talking about? The cider, he said. They put something in it. Something to make you pass out. The bathroom walls seemed to close in around me. What? They're planning to use your fingerprint to unlock your phone. Transfer money from your accounts. Emma told me everything. She thought I'd think it was clever. I sank down onto the edge of the bathtub, the phone pressed against my ear like a lifeline. How much money? 12,000. The amount she owes. Owes to who? Ryan's voice got even quieter. Gambling debts. Online poker, sports betting. She's in deep with some people you don't want to owe money to. The pieces clicked into place with horrible clarity. Emma's financial struggles weren't just poor budgeting, they were addiction. The study abroad program was a lie. The family dinner was a setup. And I was the mark. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because what they're planning is wrong. And because Emma thought I'd help. When I refused, she called me weak. Said I didn't understand family loyalty. There was bitterness in his voice. Turns out my definition of loyalty doesn't include drugging people. I ended the call and sat in the silence of the bathroom, processing what I'd just learned. My family, the people who'd raised me, who'd taught me right from wrong, who'd preached about honesty and integrity my entire life, were planning to drug me and rob me. But here's the thing they didn't know about me. I work in cybersecurity. I design systems to catch people who think they're smarter than everyone else. And I was about to show them exactly how smart I really was. Instead of running, I made a different choice. I opened my phone and activated a background recording app. No visible indicators, no notifications, completely invisible to anyone who might glance at my screen. Then I enabled additional security protocols on all my banking apps, the kind that require biometric verification and a secondary authentication code. Finally, I took my untouched glass of cider into the bathroom with me. When I returned to the table, I was carrying an empty glass. Everything okay? My mother asked, her eyes immediately going to the empty glass in my hand. Perfect, I said, settling back into my chair. That cider was delicious. Really hit the spot. I hadn't drunk a single drop. I'd poured it down the bathroom sink. But they didn't need to know that. Actually, I continued, placing a hand dramatically to my forehead, I'm starting to feel a little dizzy. Probably just tired from work. The change in their demeanor was immediate and terrifying. My mother's face shifted into a mask of concern that looked almost genuine. My father leaned forward, suddenly the picture of paternal worry. Even Emma looked up from her phone, her eyes bright with anticipation. "Why don't you lie down on the couch?" my mother suggested, already rising from her chair. "Just for a few minutes." They helped me to the living room with the tender care of devoted family members. My mother fluffed pillows behind my head. My father adjusted the lighting. Emma brought me a soft blanket, tucking it around my legs with uncharacteristic gentleness. "Just rest," my mother whispered. "We'll clean up dinner." I closed my eyes and controlled my breathing, making it slow and deep. The couch was comfortable, the blanket was warm, and if I hadn't known what was coming, I might have actually fallen asleep. But I was wide awake, listening to every whisper, every footstep, every quiet conversation happening just out of what they thought was my earshot. "Is she out?" That was Emma, her voice barely audible. "Give it a few more minutes." My father, always the cautious one. I waited, keeping my breathing steady, my body completely still. The hardest part was not flinching when I felt fingers gently lifting my hand, positioning my thumb against my phone's sensor. The device vibrated softly. "Unlocked." "We're in," Emma whispered. What happened next was a masterclass in premeditated theft. They moved through my banking apps with practiced efficiency, clearly having planned this down to the last detail. I heard them navigating menus, discussing routing numbers, debating exactly how much to transfer. "Not the full amount," my father cautioned. "Just enough to cover what she owes. We don't want to be greedy." $12,000. The exact amount Emma needed for her gambling debts. But then they hit a wall. "It's asking for a verification code," Emma muttered. "What kind of code?" my mother asked. "Two-factor authentication. It wants a code sent to her phone." There was a pause, then my father's voice, tinged with frustration. "Try a different app." More tapping, more frustrated whispers. "Same thing. Everything requires additional verification." They tried for 20 minutes, moving from app to app, account to account, growing increasingly agitated as each attempt was blocked by security measures they couldn't bypass. Finally, they gave up. "Put the phone back," my father instructed. "We'll have to think of something else." I felt my phone being placed gently back in my pocket, my hand positioned naturally at my side. They retreated to the kitchen, their whispered conversation fading as they put distance between themselves and my supposedly unconscious form. I waited another 10 minutes before waking up. "Oh," I said, blinking slowly and sitting up as if disoriented. "I must have dozed off. Sorry about that." "No problem at all," my mother said, her voice bright with false cheer. "Feeling better?" "Much, thanks. But I should probably head home. Early tomorrow." They walked me to the door with the same gentle concern they'd shown all evening. Hugs all around, reminders to drive safely, promises to do this again soon. "Thanks for dinner," I said, smiling like nothing had happened. It was exactly what I needed. As I drove away, I wasn't thinking about revenge. I was thinking about justice. There's a difference, and it matters. I drove straight to the police station. The officer on duty was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and the patient demeanor of someone who'd heard every possible story. I sat across from her desk and played the recording I'd made. Her expression changed as she listened to my family calmly discussing how to drug me and steal my money. When Emma's voice came through clearly saying, "She always passes out after one drink. We just need her unconscious long enough to get into her accounts," the officer stopped the recording. "Do you understand what they attempted to do?" she asked. "Attempted fraud, conspiracy, and administering a substance without consent," I replied. "Yes, I understand exactly what they did." She nodded approvingly. Most people don't realize how serious this kind of crime is, especially when it involves family. I filed a formal complaint that night. By morning, warrants had been issued for all three of them. The phone calls started before I even got to work the next day. Angry voicemails, desperate text messages, accusations of betrayal and threats to destroy the family. My mother left a message that was equal parts fury and disbelief. "You actually called the police on your own family? What kind of person does that?" The kind of person who refuses to be a victim, I thought. The kind of person who understands that blood relation doesn't excuse criminal behavior. I blocked their numbers, changed my locks, and went to work like it was any other Tuesday. The legal proceedings were swift and decisive. When confronted with clear audio evidence of their crime, none of them chose to fight the charges. They accepted plea deals, 1 year of probation, community service, fines, and a no-contact order. Emma lost her job in finance. Turns out having fraud charges on your record makes you unemployable in an industry built on trust. My parents had to sell their house to pay legal fees and gambling debts. Ryan moved out of state, apparently deciding that Emma's definition of family loyalty wasn't compatible with his moral compass. I never reached out to any of them. Never asked how they were doing, never tried to reconcile, never felt a moment of regret about my decision to press charges. But the story doesn't end there. 6 months later, I was grocery shopping when I spotted a familiar figure stocking shelves in the cleaning supplies aisle. Emma, wearing a red vest and name tag, carefully arranging bottles of dish soap with a kind of attention to detail that suggested this job was important to her. She didn't see me, or maybe she did and chose to pretend otherwise. Either way, I finished my shopping and left without saying anything. What was there to say? The cousin who told me about my parents losing their house also mentioned that Emma had been attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings. Apparently, losing everything, her job, her boyfriend, her family's financial security, had been the wake-up call she needed. I hope that's true. I hope she gets the help she needs and builds a better life for herself. But I also know that none of that changes what they did to me, or justifies the choice they made to see me as a solution to problems I didn't create. Some people might say I went too far. That family should forgive the family, that I should have handled it privately, that involving the police was an overreaction. But here's what I learned. The people who say that are usually the ones who benefit from your silence. They're the ones who count on your loyalty being stronger than your self-respect, your love being deeper than your boundaries. My family taught me that the hard way. They also taught me something else, that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's destructive behavior. By holding them accountable, by refusing to be their victim, I gave them the chance to face consequences that might actually change their lives. Whether they take that chance is up to them. Looking back, the hardest part wasn't pressing charges or cutting contact. It was realizing that the people who raised me to value honesty and integrity were willing to abandon those principles the moment it became convenient. But sometimes you have to lose a family to find yourself. So what do you think? Did I handle this the right way, or should I have tried to work things out privately? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this story resonated with you, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Until then, remember, family isn't about blood, it's about respect, trust, and choosing to do right by each other, even when no one's watching.